Okay, now good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session on SD-WAN. SD-WAN or secure SD-WAN has been around, I think, for a few years already. And many of us have been implementing or are considering to implement. So today's session, we're not going to do a presentation, but instead I've have the honor of inviting two gentlemen here to discuss about their experiences or their soon-to-be experiences with secure SD-WAN. I'd like to introduce first Mr. Shashir Belbase from Asian Development Bank. And second gentleman you see here, Mr. Thomas Flodin. He is from Telenor Impli, all the way from Sweden, right? So maybe just let me get Shashir on board first. Shashir, would you like to introduce yourself and ADB?
Sure. Thank you, Chingping, for this opportunity. I'm happy to be speaking on our SD-WAN experience. But perhaps before I begin, just a quick intro on ADB. ADB, it was founded in 1966, as many of you may be aware. We are primarily a multilateral development bank, which basically means that our interest is multiple countries. Our stakeholders are also multiple countries, and we primarily assist the countries with different products, knowledge, and partnership for infrastructure development. Just quickly, 1 minute before I talk about SD-WAN, just a cloud journey, and I won't spend too much time on this, but basically what I want to mention here is that we have gone through a journey of very, very legacy system pre-2016 to now, and I put a special mark on the SD-WAN, and this is where we started to look into SD-WAN, and now we are in the initial stages of deployment. So, you want me to stop here, or how do you want to? Yeah. Because
Okay.
you said intro, so I don't know if I went too far. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Shashir. Maybe just let me also have Thomas introduce yourself and also what Telenor Impli does.
Yes, of course. Thanks. I will also share one slide here. Just give me a sec. So here we are. So I'm Thomas Flodin. I'm the portfolio manager here in Telenor Impli, responsible for our SD-WAN offering and also commercially responsible for Telenor Sweden's networking offerings. And although I'm working here from Sweden, from actually my home office, what you see is a fake background, as everyone else are working from home. I'm representing Telenor Group, which is an international telecom operator with operations in 9 markets. We're working from the Nordic hub with Sweden, where I work, and also including Denmark, Norway, and also Finland. But we have an Asian hub as well, where we have operations in Malaysia with DG, DTAC in Thailand, and also in operations in Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Pakistan.
Right.
With like 20,000 employees and so. But I'm working from the Nordic hub in Sweden, and just saying a few words about also Impli, that the Telenor Sweden are a mobile and fixed operator, both within the consumer and business area. And Telenor Impli is a part of that, of Telenor Sweden, the business area, where Impli is the specialist in network and security. So that's why we are in a position to offer SD-WAN as part of our managed services offerings. And we've been a fortunate partner with more than 10 years. I think it's coming like 15 years now. So that's briefly about me and Telenor.
Right. Thanks, gentlemen. I realized I forgot to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Ching Ping. You can call me CP, and I work for Fortinet, Southeast Asia and Hong Kong, and one of my business objectives is to drive SD-WAN itself. So thanks, Thomas and Telenor for being our partner itself. So maybe a question for Thomas actually. You've recently onboarded Fortinet SD-WAN. So in the first place, why have you decided to go into this SD-WAN business? And what do you see the market moving from a service provider point of view?
Yeah, thanks. Actually, it was back in June 2019 that we officially launched our first SD-WAN services. So we have a little more than a year's experience from having it on the market. And then, of course, before that, we've been working on it for a while. Can I share one slide more? Is that okay? So I can just show you one. Okay, here you see my same again here, but I will switch to the next slide if I can. Here we go. So the background on why we came up with the idea to launch SD-WAN. First of all, we already set out in our strategy to grow our position within networking services. And also we saw from our existing customers and the customer discussions we had that a lot of customers came up with requests and questions regarding SD-WAN when they started to move towards cloud services more than on-prem or more net-centric services. So, and then of course, we would like to take advantage of the technology shift from the more legacy MPLS and other wide area network solutions to the SD-WAN solutions. So that was the first from our ambition and also from the customer requirements. But we also see an opportunity because we have an extensive fiber and 4G and now actually 5G coverage from our as a mobile and fixed service operator. So we would like to take advantage of that, of course. We actually launched our 5G offering 2 weeks ago. So we see that also that we could use our infrastructure services as a foundation for the SD-WAN. And also that we have a long experience from providing MPLS and internet services from the operator side and from the Impli operations. We have a lot of experience from providing managed security. As I mentioned in the previous slide, that we have been working together with Fortinet, but also other strategic partners for like 15 years in order to be able to offer those services. So all this coming together to we thought that would give us a really good position to offer an attractive end-to-end like network secure network offering
Yes.
for SD-WAN.
So maybe it's a good introduction, Thomas. But Shishir, what do you think? Is this something that you've mentioned SD-WAN just now, but I'm not too sure. Were these the compelling reasons that you were ADB as a whole has decided to move into SD-WAN?
Sorry, I agree with Thomas. I mean, the technology has shifted. If you look at just our own journey, as I was saying, we got onto the whole cloud journey much later compared to probably many other organizations, and that journey really started for us after the new leadership came on board for IT, and we were very much a legacy-based organization. What that means is that a lot of our systems are very much headquarters Manila based. That's where our headquarters is. That's where I'm at. And as we embarked on the cloud, this brought birth to Microsoft Office, Teams, and many other cloud applications. So we saw that our traffic pattern also started to shift. And initially, we were maintaining a private link from each of our 40 offices that are around the world into Manila. And then in addition to that, they also, of course, had a local internet outbound for normal internet browsing and other things. So we saw this shift in technology and adoption within our own landscape. So obviously we had to look into adding another internet for sure for capacity and resiliency. But then that was also not enough because IP, Internet Protocol by nature, doesn't really handle that very well. So there needed to be more intelligence added on top of that. So that's why we started to look into SD-WAN.
I see. So when you say, well, traditional, are you referring to lease lines, MPLS, and anything?
Yeah, so we were using at least, so if you look at our 40 offices, kind of like a hub and spoke model, we had 40, each office was equipped with one, either MPLS or VSAT-based connection, depending on the region you're in. And as Thomas can agree, many regions still don't have the cabling infrastructure, so we relied on VSAT. So we had one private link and one public internet. And this is where we started. So now that is changing to a dual internet strategy.
I see. And it's going to be one service provider on everything. Like, Thomas will be happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. That we looked into that. I mean, this gets into the whole how question on how we embarked on this whole journey about implementing this or even going through our evaluation process. But the idea, the driver was mostly where is the traffic going? And we saw that the 80-20 traffic, which was 80% coming to HQ for accessing mainframe and ERP and other legacy systems, had now changed to 20-80, meaning only 20% of the traffic was now coming back to headquarters, and 80 was headed to Singapore and other locations where the cloud hosting was done for the solutions we're using. So this was the primary driver. And as a result, we needed more pipe for the internet, and the MPLS, the private link, basically became less relevant. Not only that, but the second driver was also the cost, because maintaining a private link into the internet is not only not practical, but also it's not cost effective. So these are the two main drivers. One is the cost on the private link, and one is the shift of technology solutions moving to cloud.
Okay, cool.
And
yes, Thomas, you want to say something?
Yeah,
I want to ask
exactly.
something controversial.
No, it's not, but it's very interesting to hear from Shishir, because I really hear this from a lot of our customers. It's independent if it's like in Sweden or in Asia or in the rest of the world. It feels like the interest for SD-WAN all often starts with like introducing Office 365 or putting your services up to like Azure or AWS or something like that. And as you say, Shishir, that the traffic pattern changes, but also that, as I say, we have a lot of infrastructure that, of course, we want to connect the customers with our own infrastructure, but also giving the customers the flexibility to choose what infrastructure, what internet connections, or is it fixed fiber connections, or is it mobile connectivity, or freedom to choose which ISPs that you will base the SD-WAN service, and you use the strength of SD-WAN as an overlay service. I think that's it feels like it's a universal need nowadays.
And if I could just add one more point, and that was more around the manageability. So the moment you have all these offices and you have multiple links going from here to there, we saw our technical team getting caught into the whole policy routing, the preferring which route to take for which route, the policies. So basically we needed not only the SD-WAN fabric, but we also needed the management capability. policy
Yes.
driven, so that this
Yes.
could be something that's globally set. Yes.
Yeah. So wouldn't that make a service provider solution more compelling? Would it?
Okay, so the challenge there is this. We did look into different models. As you can see, there are different players right now. I may not have the exact industry terms for this, but you have the SD-WAN vendors who also have sort of these models where the telcos themselves are offering the SD-WAN solution, the NFP model where telcos are taking more and more of the edge solution, where the firewalls, the routers, and other things, the proxies are going into the telco model. So we looked at both an a la carte solution where ADB would kind of do all of that stuff on their own, or they would completely hand this edge services to other providers. And our experience with that was being in Asia. Obviously, the market is evolving in this world. It is not the same as some of the other markets. So we saw that finding such a provider that would meet all the regional needs, from Azerbaijan to all the way to Tonga and Singapore and US, it would be quite challenging, number one. Number two, you would have the second challenge was that, while these models do offer a lot of the edge services with the telcos, the product the value add of different products that we use was different. For example, you may be using vendor A, vendor B, vendor C for firewall, and vendor D for router. Now, when you go to a particular bundle model, you're going to have to stick with whatever the solution they offer, and that might not meet the requirement. The second thing I would say was that the challenge here is let's say you have a service provider that can come forward and say, globally, I will take over the entire SD-WAN fabric and will manage all of that. Then you have the issue of two internet links. Okay, which provider, if you have a single provider, and let's assume that one internet link may come from them, but the second internet link for resiliency purpose would have to come from a second provider. Now, which means how do you then pass on that contract of the second provider also to be managed by service provider A? And those things got a bit complex. So we basically said, okay, I know it's going to be challenging, but we're going to do it on our own. So where we left off with and where we are right now is that the field offices as well as the headquarters buy their own internet. They have two internets. They basically provision their own internet. We provide them with the hardware and the orchestration that goes on top of it, which we manage from the headquarters side.
Okay. So I guess there are both sides of the coin. I mean, there would be organizations that find, managed service providers being important. And especially for the business that Thomas is in, you've also included security, making use of Fortinet, obviously, as one of them. So maybe back to Thomas, why in the first place, have you selected to work with Fortinet for SD-WAN itself?
During last spring, we did an evaluation when we were looking at should we position ourselves and what are the key customer requirements. We started off from that and had meetings with a lot of existing MPLS customers and also other prospects that we were in discussion with to see what they were asking for, and also looked at how the market in primarily Sweden, but also the Nordics and Scandinavia. We saw that when it came to security, that position was not taken. And also we saw that even though the customers are primarily talking about moving to the clouds and what we've been talking about, both me and Shashir here, about like changing traffic patterns and such, we of course saw that the cybersecurity and the security threats could be, of course, a challenge, and also that the security needs were changing since the traffic patterns were changing, that there is a risk of exposing several like threat points on your network when the traffic pattern were changing with the local internet breakout and such. So all this together, we saw that, okay, security must be one of our key pillars to build our offering on. And then we started looking at and do evaluation of our existing strategic partners, but also other suppliers on the market. And then we ended up with Fortinet. And some of the evaluation criteria was, of course, that they had a strong security focus and footprint for that, the partner we would like to work with. But also that things like scalability, since we saw that most probably we would need a pretty competent customer-based equipment. We saw some other providers that were working on pretty more light CPE, but then more central functions. But we thought that we need to put this security functionality close to the users and close to the business sites. And then we found that Fortinet has a pretty scalable platform coming from that.
So back to Shishir, right? Do you agree with that? I mean, SD-WAN, we've been talking about WAN connectivity, replacing your WAN connectivity, right? Now we've added security into the fray. Would you agree to this kind of integrated approach?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the SD-WAN or the edge market right now, you see many devices coming out with integrated services for not only the edge routing, but you also have the security part to it. Some are also adding a voice and perhaps other features to it, right? And we did look at that sort of a unified, universal box model. And again, the challenge there was that we already had a pretty robust security infrastructure. Now, carving that security piece out and mixing that with the SD-WAN sort of a framework was going to be a bit challenging because we use a lot of features on our firewalls right now. So of course, if you go with a SD-WAN solution, either you'd have to take that entire firewall functionality into a sort of a VM ESXi model within the SD-WAN fabric, or you'd have to then kind of give up a few things to, save the footprint on the hardware and so forth. But I do agree that the market is going towards more and more of this integrated service unit models where routing, some of the basic security, proxy, this is all being moved out of the enterprise and becoming part of the telco cloud or whatnot. So what it means for enterprise at the end of the day would basically that it's sort of like like your utility. You have a water pipe coming to you, a tap. You don't know what's behind it, and that's what I see as kind of a future of enterprise networking. That a lot of these WAN services will be part of that, and enterprise will basically have to maintain the very basic, very minimum, which is switch ports and Wi-Fi and printing and few basic services. But we have a ways to go.
Yes. Talking about switch ports, Wi-Fi and all that, it's something that I think Telenor has actually productized as well, right? In SD branch. So Thomas, you want to share a little bit why you think, besides doing the SD-WAN and the security, we should be going into the branch as well from a service provider or enterprise point of view?
We actually, in our first version of our SD-WAN offering, we hadn't included SD branch. It was not only, but it was more focusing on the WAN functionalities. But we actually got so many questions from the customers and the prospects that we had discussions with, asking for this SD branch and including Wi-Fi and LAN. And of course, we were interested in that because we are offering LAN and managed LAN and Wi-Fi solutions. So that was a natural step to take. but also very much driven from the customers. So we actually, before we now had launched the second version of our SD-WAN portfolio, we had started to offer and also implement SD-Branch solutions. And I think what the customers are driven by are a lot of things, but one thing is, of course, that if it depends on the customer's organizations, or if it's just how it's traditionally been done, that WAN services have been procured separately from the LAN and Wi-Fi. Maybe that some of the organization were looking more into connecting the offices and the data centers, and other parts, like perhaps facility and departments like that, were looking at the LAN, Wi-Fi, and those internal infrastructure.
I see.
But I see that the customers are a bit confused of how that should work together, and perhaps squeezed between suppliers of the LAN, Wi-Fi, and the WAN. How do we do the routing? How do we make this secure? How do we manage it all together? So I think that's where SD-Branch comes in, and see that, okay, this could be working all the way from user client up to the cloud service. And that you can buy a service or a platform that can provide this all in all, so that you're not squeezed between two or more solutions.
So this is basically a single platform that manages your security, your WAN, and your LAN as well. LAN being the switch and the APs and the wireless.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's for the customers, it's to simplify for them the management, and also what that Shishir, I hear from Shishir that is working within an organization where you have to take into account, okay, how will this actually work in our organization? What consequences will it do on a day-to-day operations and such? So I mean, we all want to bring simplicity in management and control and visibility of how the network and the traffic flow goes, and also then be comfortable that it's secure from cyber threats and such.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. So maybe some last words for Shishir. What do you think of this SD-Branch? I know it's not inside your plan today, but knowing the concept, that integrating everything from WAN to security to the LAN, would it be something on a more forward-looking kind of infrastructure architecture that you would be exploring?
No, I think eventually, as the market evolves, I think we will have to go into that model. I know that we're already looking into kind of this universal box that could take in a lot of these edge routing, firewall, including voice services. Yeah. And I think it depends on how clever these products are designed and how flexible they are, so that you could incorporate a third party or any firewall or other solutions into their platform. Because I think the SD-WAN vendors may go out and partner with somebody, another firm, but that may not be to the liking of the enterprises that's being that's evaluating that, right? So it depends on what you offer, but also would depend on how flexible that is. And again, cool. Other than the technology piece, obviously there are a lot of other consideration from a business side you have to look at. For example, is saving the hardware footprint really reducing from 3 boxes to 1? How much of value add can that provide? So I think the bigger value add is more on the management, staffing to manage those other aspects of edge, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So I think we've run out of time. Thank you, Shishir and Thomas. And to the audience, if you have any questions, any burning questions, there's a Q&A box there right below. Send in your questions anytime, not anytime now, and then we will respond to them in the next 5 minutes. Thanks again, gentlemen.